My name is John Deluce. I'm the CEO and founder of Abitibi Metals. Abitibi trades on the CSE under the ticker AMQ. Very excited for today's update, and really the crux of Abitibi is the B26 polymetallic deposit that we've had the privilege of operating in partnership with SOQUEM, a subsidiary of the Quebec government, over the last just under 2.5 years. And in 2.5 years, we've been able to grow the resource to combine 25 million tons today at just over 2.1% copper equivalent. And we've been able to really well capitalize the company, build a world-class team, and now attract, upon closing, a world-class producing partner that will have a 9.9% stake in the company. So a lot to talk about today.
Oh, we do. But we're really focused on this one, because I think the big news is obviously Discovery Silver's, well, they're taking 9.9%, I think you said. And what exactly did they diligence with you, and what did they like? Is it geology, scale? Is it development optionality? What are they looking for?
I think what I can't speak on their behalf, but what I can say is the key, whether it's Discovery or the other producers that have reviewed B26, I think the consistency is how rare these deposits are in the marketplace. And we look at the recent closing of the Foran takeover by Eldorado for almost $4 billion. It showcases the demand for these in the market, but also how rare they are. Like there's very few of these available across Canada that have the size and scale like B26 and like McIlvenny Bay does with now Eldorado. So I think, again, it's part of where we started the conversation a year and a half ago, that we saw the potential for this to grow significantly. The market missed it. And now over the last year, the market is starting to get it. We went from 30 million market cap to now post-closing of the financing will be around 150 million and well-funded. So I think our strategic investor saw that potential, saw the looking forward of, okay, what can we now do? We're already at what we would argue is that critical mass and a path to economics with the resource that we have today. But again, we see a lot. That's not it. We see upside from where we are today with the asset. We look forward to now moving towards, again, PEA. We're working on an internal scoping to really deliver to the market something that is robust. We combine that with a large-scale drill program to try to look at where can we go with the deposit, which we still think that there's quite a lot of upside. And then we look above and beyond that of like, what else can we do? Our goal is to consolidate the camp and leverage what is our flagship asset in the camp to build on what we believe is an area and really a camp play that we think will be the consolidators of that opportunity. And again, looking forward, the majors are starting to bet on this is a sustained gold market. This is an early stages of a copper bull rally that we see sustainable increases in the copper price. And what does that mean for assets like B26? So I think there's a lot of factors moving together, but it speaks to, again, we've been very vocal to the market that this has been a missed opportunity. We've started to get recognition. I think this is one more step in getting recognition and getting to the point where we think B26 should be in this market.
Okay, they've done some diligence, but they know you. Your paths have crossed before. They trust you. So their management team know your management team. And maybe talk to that.
Yeah, we've had some prior, again, Tony McCooch and his team at Discovery Silver are very well-known and world-class operators. You look at what they did at Lakeshore and West Timmins, which is the camp that they're back involved with Discovery. We were some of the largest shareholders of Homer Gold, and my dad was on the board. That was taken over by Tony and his team at Lakeshore, and it was built into the West Timmins mine, which is still in operation today. It has been a very successful mine in the Timmins district. Then you look at their success at Kirkland Lake Gold. We were large shareholders of Kirkland Lake, and you look at the success of Fosterville. You look at the success of Detour, and at the time of Detour, their team was highly scrutinized that they overpaid for an asset in Northern Ontario. And you now look at it's one of the largest producing assets in Canada, and with long legs to continue to be one of the leading gold deposits in North America. So you look at their ability to look at assets and opportunities early, combined with their operational excellence to actually execute on the vision of getting into stuff early. And it combines in well with what our vision is at Abitibi and B26 is we saw the potential in this from our government partners. We've been able to we've been able to create a lot of value over the last 2 years, but we see this as just the start. We see the ability to continue to grow the resource, deliver to the market what we believe will be economic deposit that is able to show robust numbers. And we now have partners and strategic investors that we have had success before, but they've also had success in making a lot of people, a lot of funds, good returns on their investment. And that's what our goals are. We want to be aligned with partners that, again, are in this to create value and recognize the opportunity that we have in front of us.
Okay, so you're obviously Discovery Silver, a team of mine builders, operators. They, as you say, see something here. What I'd like to understand is how does a team of builders and operators help an exploration team in terms of the way that they go about, I guess, validating your geological model? Do they agree with you? Their technical input, and what will that relationship be? Because it's 9.9, it's not 19.9. I'm just intrigued to see how this thing evolves.
Yeah, like it's a relationship that they certainly are able to complement our team extremely well, and their track record of permitting with First Nations engagement, with managing all of the items behind the scenes that the market doesn't quite value, but come together in a successful, whether it's feasibility or development, or being able to showcase this on the federal level in Canada to look for government grants. Having that backing and expertise to help critique our strategy and also challenge my team and myself to do as best as we can for the project and company, I think is something that we value there. And again, at 9.9, it's not 20. It's the right balance considering our market cap of then getting a partner involved at the right time and cost of capital, but not going overboard. So I think we value their expertise significantly. We think across the verticals of exploration, permitting, development, environment, they have experience that covers the full life cycle of how these early development opportunities can become successful. So I think with all those factors, we're very well aligned, and we're excited to see where this goes from here in a market that I think M&A is picking up and is only going to increase.
Well, look, obviously it hasn't closed yet, but I assume there'll be some formalization around some technical committees and JV type, not JV, but decision making, we'll call it. But what does that infer for retail investors? Be a little bit excited and be thinking to the future in terms of some kind of creeping control optionality on their behalf. And is there much you can say or tell us with regards to how open the relationship is to future funding strategy?
I think it's a very friendly investment and partnership. Yeah, I think it's very friendly, and at the same time, what I would say to our valued retail shareholders is, again, what does this mean both with the partner and what we're going to do with the capital? And again, not issuing any warrants, which again, we're keeping everybody on a similar playing field without any capping on the stock. So what does it mean? It means that there's a lot of generalist funds that have followed the track record of our strategic investors that highly value the expertise that they bring to the table, and this provides a stamp of approval that I think we will see continued interest from some of the larger generalist funds that are able to help continue to add to our institutional base, but it's also our long-term institutional base. A lot of these pension funds and generalist funds if they see an opportunity like this, they are in this for a long-term investment, seeing the vision of the company and where we want to go with it. So I think, and it's also, what are we going to do with the capital? This injects $31 million in a market that is still volatile. We see gold up 100, down 100. We see copper that was going down significantly going into the war and now is back close to $6. But that noise is eliminated. Our medium to long-term projections on both the gold and copper and zinc is very strong. And we now have a war chest to deliver 80,000 meters plus of drilling, to deliver the PEA, to put a huge dent into our feasibility study, to enable additional acquisitions that allow us to showcase a large camp-wide approach with the B26 and area. So I think it's also, again, what are we going to do with the capital? And we believe the capital that we have and the market cap we have, there's a lot of runway for growth and meaningful growth within the capital that we now have, which has been placed with a good partner and other very strategic long-term capital.
Okay, it's early stages, obviously, and money gives you optionality, but your actions over the next 12 months will kind of help shape how you are valued. The endorsement of Discovery Silver is there for sure. The funds that invested in that $6.5 billion company, or will be looking at you as part of their portfolio exercise, I'm sure. But the job that's going to do a lot of talking for you, because if I look at your valuation, EV to in situ multiples, there's more that can be done. So can you just remind us of the type of drilling? It's a lot of drilling, but can you remind us the type of drilling that you think that you're going to need to deliver to kind of close that value gap? And maybe give us a sense of the time frame for that.
So the type of drilling, especially what we started off delivering to the market with phase 4 is about a month ago, we delivered our first results from phase 4, which included once again 150 meter step out at strong grades, expanding this at depth. And that continues to support our goal and thesis that this is a much larger deposit and is a long life potential asset. So our goal, let's start with our goals for this year, work backwards. Our goal for Q1 is a PEA and updated resource. So there's two objectives we got to balance there. One, the PEA is looking more near surface and what is the early payback of the deposit, and the resource is more open-ended of how big can this deposit be, and how does that tie into overall mine life? So those are the two objectives, and we work backwards in balancing where the meters are. So we certainly have still a large expansional budget. We are looking at strategic infill targets where, like with phase 3, we're identifying areas that we believe are understated in terms of grade and tonnage as a result of some of the wide areas of drill density in the inferred category. So that we're going to have a balanced budget between expansional and infill. And then when we look towards a budget that is now fully funded for 2027, and then the milestones that move towards a feasibility study, and again, that doesn't capture any potential acquisitions that could come into the strategy that I'm confident that we'll have developments on over the near term. But just thinking B26 only, our budget would then go more allocated on infill next year to continue to convert inferred to indicated to support our feasibility goals. But again, those are feeding into what we believe is big ticket items that investors are able to then quantify on the basis of the PEA. We think it could be quite robust in the economics, and then start to value. There's funds that need a PEA stamp before they get involved with the project. But I'd say that's my answer today, and I'm the overall framework. But what I'll say is towards the end of May or early June, we are going to lay out a full 2-year plan that involves where we allocate our budget and what are the specific deliverables that the market can expect from that budget. So we look forward to rolling out the big picture and how all this ties together and what the market can expect as a result.
Okay, well, in this case, that just a lot of the questions I'd lined up. Okay, I think that's great. You're in a good place for sure, financially and indeed with this endorsement today. So maybe let's get back end of May, beginning of June, when you're able to take us through that plan.
Yeah, and I think we'll have pretty consistent drill results through that period as well. So I think there'll be a lot to talk about. Is what are we seeing with the drill bit? Where are these extensional areas, and how can we speculate on the resource growth? And then how does it all tie together within the other goals of the company through the end of the year in 2027, combined with what will be met testing during that period, geotechnical testing during that period. So a lot of de-risking items that we are quite positive on the impact that it will have on the project. And again, fully funded steps of continuing to de-risk the project. And I think, again, start to showcase how this has largely been overlooked by the market for the last 2 years. And I think there's going to be an inflection point that, again, the market really gets it and we start to make up the value gap that we still see in the market.